You know, it's not an unusual thing at this time of year to look back and say to yourself, well, what did I learn? What went well? What didn't? What do I need to apply to next year going forward? And I think that, if you're interested in personal development, that's one of the real highlights of your year. Not necessarily that it's going to be fun, although it could be, but essentially we need to kind of look back over that last 12 months and say to ourselves, where was the greatest changes? How did I go with that? How did I cope? And what permanent changes do I need to make within myself going forward so that I bring a better me to the next year? So 2020 been pretty tough. It's a target-rich environment for places where we could have gone a whole lot better than we did. Unfortunately, 2021 and perhaps the years after that are probably going to bring as many, if not more, challenges than this, probably the toughest year we've ever had. Now, that's a pretty rough thing to say. It's been tough in 2020, but my prediction is it's actually going to get worse. That the next pandemic will actually be a whole heap worse than this one. That technological changes are going to bring massive challenges to us as human beings that we're going to have to learn and adjust quicker than ever. So as you look back on 2020, there are going to be some times where the potential for you to learn has been massive, and unfortunately most of those are characterised by things that don't go well. Now, it might be that you're disappointed with the way that you spoke, it could be disappointed with the way that you behaved, it could be that you let yourself down, or a whole range of things which fit into the category of painful to look at. So this is not our favourite exercise, is to get to this point, we're supposed to be celebrating, and yet we need to take a bit of awareness and go, where were the pain points in 2020? And the reason behind that is that pain is where we have the greatest opportunity to learn. So there's an ancient saying that pain is necessary, but suffering is optional. I'm going to suggest that you look at that and bring that to this set of circumstances. Okay, so there's some painful events in 2020, however that transferred for you. But suffering from that is a concept that we look at and we say, well, you don't have to suffer, you can experience the pain, but not be at that deeper level of long-term suffering. So how do we change suffering into something that's optional and we just kind of deal with the pain, learn from it and move on? Well, the reality is the way we turn pain into something that is not suffering is we find meaning in our struggle. It's not until we find some goodness in the difficult part of our life that we're able to say that pain has some value going forward. Typically, to avoid suffering, what we've got to do is get that meaning and make it clear to ourselves and then take some actions relevant to that. So typically, a classic example or illustration is a couple who've lost a child to cancer or some kind of tragic thing. It is likely that that couple, that mum and that dad, are going to address the whole idea of, okay, we're going to go and raise money for research into the type of cancer that took our child. Because what they're doing is they're saying, we suffered and we don't want other people to suffer. If we could lessen the pain for other people by raising some money for research and maybe we can get this kind of cancer nailed and it doesn't happen to anybody in the future, then we can get some kind of meaning. It's never going to bring our child back. It's never going to give us anything that's, worth the loss, but it's going to kind of ease the suffering, so to speak, and it's because it creates meaning out of tremendous loss. So if we can do that, if we can say to ourselves, where is the meaning in this? Then what it means is we look at the pain points in our life and we say to ourselves, how do I draw a meaning out of that? How do I say, I've got to make the best of this possible experience so that it's meaningful going forward, so that my life is improved in its quality. That actually means looking at what is bigger than me. That couple I described who go off into raising the money, that's a task bigger than them. That's a project. It's a kind of like a purpose bigger than themselves. And that's where a lot of our meaning is generated. So I'm going to suggest that as you look back on 2020 and you celebrate your wins, that's really the function of this part of the year, is celebrating what did go well, celebrating that you're still alive, you survived, and all of those sort of things that are worth celebrating. With those pain points, you say to yourself, how do I make meaning out of it? And to make that meaning, how do I look at it from the point of view of what is bigger than me? And what is bigger than me needs to be the sort of thing that I can address myself to. That means, what are the changes I need to make within myself? When you do that, what are the changes I need to make myself? then you're way ahead of all those people who are going to make New Year's resolutions. What we're looking for is what is significant, what is deep, what is meaningful. That can carry forward into the next year and the years beyond it, because it has quality and it has substance, rather than just like, hope I lose that 10 kilos I've been trying to lose for the last 20 years. So this is an act of consideration about your future. Spend some time with it. Spend some quality time with it. It's worth every moment that you do.